Hi, I'm Tiffany Williams with the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities.
And I'm Jackie Benestante with Autism Society of Texas. And we're here to talk to you about the life of a bill. Today, we're going to give a high-level overview of the legislative process, but first, let's talk about the timeline in which the process occurs. The Texas legislature meets from January until the end of May every other year. This is the only time laws are passed unless the governor calls a special session. So in the interim session, which is the time they are not in a real legislative session, lawmakers are working hard to implement the laws they passed during the last session. They also campaign and gather information about what is going on in their districts so they can make a positive change.
Exactly. And there's also a timeline within this session that's important to be aware of, especially as advocates. Before a session even begins in January, legislators have the opportunity to start filing their bills in November. Bills are able to be filed until March, and in the meantime, committee assignments begin to be made. So after the Speaker establishes who is chairing the House committees and the Lieutenant Governor decides who's chairing the Senate committees, hearings start to proceed. And these hearings will proceed until about mid-May, and then most of the work is done on the floor after that, meaning the Senate floor or the House floor. The last day of the session is referred to as sign day. And then all the legislation that passed during session moves to the governor's desk. I definitely suggest looking at the official calendar that the Texas legislature publishes because there are really important dates to pay attention to. Jackie, what are some other important dates that you pay attention to as an advocate?
Well, we always look at to see when is the last day to file a bill. So depending on what's going on early in the session, sometimes you file a bill or you have to file another bill or depending on what's going on. But that deadline this year is going to be March 8th, 2019. And so we'll be watching that, but we always look at the calendar for those dates.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one to pay attention to. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty of the legislative process, let's talk about what a bill even is. So current state law is referred to as Texas statute, and it is categorized into sections depending on the subject matter. For instance, there's education code, health and safety code, tax code, for instance. And a bill is a proposal to amend what is currently in state statute. So when you see on a bill, which you can access online, and we can talk about those resources later, when you're looking at a bill, you might see some language that is struck out. This means they are wanting to remove this part of the statute. And when you see language that's underlined, that is the part that they want to add to Texas state statute. So when a legislature files a bill, they're proposing the change that they want to make, but that is the first step of many for it to actually become state law. So where do bill ideas even come from? When I worked for the Texas State Legislature as a staffer, I thought all bill ideas came from the representative themselves, and a lot of them do, but often the ideas come from their constituency or the people that they represent in their district. Maybe there's a prevalent problem going on in the district that they represent, and if the representative feels like this is a statewide issue and the problem could actually be changed by a statute fix, this is an opportunity to file a bill and change the law. Other times, bills are filed by a legislature because they serve on a particular committee. For example, if you were interested as an advocate in a transportation issue, you could talk to a representative that serves on the transportation committee, and they could be interested in filing legislation that addresses your transportation issue. So once a bill is filed, the next step is a reading, which just means someone on the House or Senate floor will read the bill number and the caption, almost like announcing its arrival. So after the first reading, it will be referred to a committee depending on the subject matter of the bill. This is a way that legislation is categorized and vetted before it is voted on by the entire chamber. Some bills are referred to a committee but never receive a hearing or even brought up for discussion. But should the chair of the committee choose to hear the bill, it will be posted on the committee hearing notice. This is a good time to make office visits regarding a bill that you are interested in to the committee members and perhaps even testify at that posted hearing, but we'll talk about that later. So when a bill is heard in committee, as they say, is the first time the author of the bill or representative that filed it stands before the committee and makes a case for it. Often, this is when the background and the reasoning for the bill are presented. So after a bill is heard, the committee has the option to either vote right then during the committee hearing or to leave that bill pending and vote on it in another hearing. And every committee kind of operates differently. So if a bill is favorably voted out of committee, it will move on to the calendars committee, which has the purpose of setting a date for the bill to be heard on the floor. Not all bills are even given dates, but if it is, it will be posted so that the public knows when it will be up for a chamber vote. If the bill is voted favorably by the House and or the Senate, it will then make its way to the opposite chamber to begin the process all over again. So the House bills will move through the House committees first, and if it makes it through committee, it will make it through the House chamber. And then once it makes it out of the House, it will move on to the Senate and begin the committee process on the other side. So if the bill makes it through both of those chambers processes, it will move on to the governor's desk. And this will happen after sign die, as we said, the last day of session. And the governor has the option to either sign the bill, to veto the bill, or not sign it. If the governor doesn't sign the bill, that bill will still pass as law. It will just be unsigned. So that kind of wraps up the life of a bill. And even though it was short, it's a long, lengthy process. Mm-hmm. Not all bills make it through the legislature, but it's exciting when they do.
Yeah. And then we'll have some resources on both, some advocacy resources, kind of detailing what we've talked about. We have this, How a Bill Becomes a Law. It's a really simple handout. We'll put this online. We'll also have how to follow bill language and all those sort of resources, where to find bills, how you can read what's coming up. And you can go to texasdisabilities.org, txdisabilities.org, or texasautismsociety.org. And both of us will have all of these resources for you, this information, and some ways that you can follow bills as they're going through session. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening.